Good afternoon, Miami. Welcome back to my town halls on Tuesdays at 12. Yes, this is exactly how I will be operating in government when I am your next commissioner. And guess what? Today we are going to talk all about exactly how our commissioners have disenfranchised us as voters, what you can do about it, who you can call regarding the corruption. I know that I did a corruption piece on day one. Notice on my first town hall, I addressed the history of Miami corruption and how we could stop a lot of it. So if you have not already heard that particular video, make sure that you do go back. I want to show you really quick how you can find these videos, because a lot of people are saying, oh, Christi, how do I find your videos? Okay, first of all, today I want to say that I'm operating on one camera. I have a little bit of difficulty with an update on another computer, so forgive me, because I'm used to like playing producer on one screen and talking to you on another, so I'm not able to see myself as we go through. To make sure that you're actually seeing the screen. So this is my YouTube channel. You can go to youtube.com/ the @ Christi, CHRISTI, the number 4 Miami. And then you just click on live. Okay. So you go to live here. That's where all of the town halls are. That's where this one will be when it is finished. However, when it is
vote live, Christi Tasker for Miami District 2
I'm going to have to stop sharing that really quick. I apologize because it's making a noise. So anyway, you're going to go there. You're going to find all the town halls, and you will see where I did. The first town hall that I did was regarding corruption, because I have been an advocate to help us get rid of corruption. And that is the reason I am running for office, because the corruption is stopping us from getting our basic city services. It is costing us millions of dollars, if not $1 billion. I'm not joking, because, we have a massive city budget. I've gone over all of that in budgeting, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time to go over that. But what I wanted to show you is some of the things that I see regarding the corruption, because, I have lived in Las Vegas. I grew up north of Atlanta in a little town called Suwanee, Georgia, where my parents were both service people, like in the community. I didn't know any other way other than my father was actually on the planning and zoning board. So you had plans, nobody was on the take. Everybody was trying to do the right thing. And guess what? The city of Suwanee is thriving today because of that. And I don't live there. However, but it's very nice for my old clients or old neighbors to give me a call and say, hey, you're never going to believe what's happening to Suwanee. Well, actually, I would, because my parents were the ones who created the master plan, some of the parts of the master plan with the city planning and zoning. So with that, I know a lot about planning and zoning, and I know a lot of how the corruption starts within planning and zoning. And when I've done the investigation on the city of Miami, it turns out that the majority of it starts in planning and zoning. So I decided I was going to speak up and go to the planning and zoning board this week. And what I find is very alarming furthermore. So let me just tell you what happens there to begin with. Okay, so these are some of the things I'm hearing from actual citizens. Okay, number one, downtown, we have had businesses close due to the fact that their streets have been barricaded. They were not able to pay their rent, or they were simply like their streets were just closed down. Some of them had their signs removed. Their signs have not been put back up. And this has been like a year and a half later. So it's very difficult for an Uber to be able to actually find that person's business. So, and we have a lot of different groups, like, in other words, the business owners, when I ask them, like, who do you think is responsible for this? They may say like the DDA. Well, the DDA, yes, that DDA is actually funded by the city, the Downtown Development Authority, and the county. So there's a lot of double governance. There's a lot of different groups that are going on that are, maybe trying to do a lot of great things. But the reality is, I find that we have too many hands in the cookie jar. That's just my opinion. I would like to know your opinion, but I think we have too many hands in the cookie jar. And I feel like we have a lot of people that don't really know what they are doing. So people have asked me, Christi, on day one, what will you do? Will you keep all of the staff? Actually, I will not. I will make everybody re-interview for their jobs because I want to make sure that, number one, I am able to cut the fat because, in other words, corruption also starts with one thing that I want to show you, okay, because this is really important. So I'm going to share with you on my Twitter feed. And I'd actually just posted this just so you guys can see it. By the way, for those of you who don't know, yes, I was endorsed by the Miami Independent. People have asked me, do I own the Miami Independent? No, I do not. And I've also been endorsed by Citizens First PAC. So yeah, please take a look at that. And I'm very grateful for that because it is the citizens that we are working for. Okay, so one of the first things that kind of came to mind as a way that I see corruption starting here, believe it or not, because, you know, keep in mind, I've traveled a lot for my work, and only in third world countries do I see commissioners or politicians' names plastered like massively on the sides of buildings. Okay, so this is your taxpayer money at work advertising Alex Diaz de la Portilla's name. It had to come off of the building. You paid for it to go up. You paid for it to come down. Now the building's got to be resanded. It's got to be repainted. So if I were making legislation, it would be that the city emblem would be on the side of the building, and it would just simply say District 1 Commissioner Office, period. Whoever goes in that office. So that way the name is not on the side of the building. That would be very typical in most cities. The city that I grew up in, people did not have their names on the side of buildings. The politicians did not. Matter of fact, oftentimes the commissioner or the city council, they didn't even have an office, okay? Because the majority of the work was actually done outside of the place in general. So not only did Alex Diaz de la Portilla have this office, but he also had an office in City Hall. So the letters had to be removed from his door. Okay, that's fine. That's an inexpensive change, you know, putting the letters on glass. But when it comes to putting them on our city buildings or our city vehicles, okay, I'll come back to that in just a second, but our city vehicles like this, for many of you in District 2, you may think, wow, this looks really familiar. Well, that's because our District 2 commissioner, who is only in for 9 months, pretty much did exactly the same thing. So I'm going to call it exactly like I see it. District 2 Commission is under the leadership of Alex Diaz de la Portilla. I know that's going to be very hard. They have many of the same donors. You can look them up yourself. And speaking of donors, I'm going to share with you where you get the donor information and who you can ask for that. So listen, don't ask me. Do your own research. Ask questions because we all have these little things called PACs, okay? Let me make sure that you guys are actually seeing. Okay, perfect. I want to make sure that you are actually seeing my screen so that you can see. So a lot of these people, a lot of these politicians have PACs, and they're called political action committees. Okay, so take a note of that. That's PAC, Political Action Committee. Okay, so one of the candidates that's running against me, he actually founded a PAC called Save PAC. It is the LGBTQ agenda PAC for Miami. It's called Save PAC. You can look him up, Damian Pardo. And he's loaned himself $60,000. Well, where did he get the $60,000, and why would he spend $60,000 of his own money to get in our public office to get this job? Okay, because the job, I think it only pays like $65,000. Somebody asked me, I don't even know, because I'm not doing it for the money. I'm actually doing it so that we can get our basic services back. So I say this because, you know, our city vehicles are running around labeled with, you know, names of politicians. Okay, so I look at this as a way to campaign. So Sabina Covo did the same thing. She got into office. She started plastering her face all over our city parks. She relabeled city trucks. And as if she's going to be there. I mean, she's elected to office for 9 months, so she spent a lot of money being there to basically campaign for this election that we are running in. Okay, then they do things such as, you know, when there are when their offices are giving away things, I'm going to go back to the PACs in just a minute for those of you who are interested. But what I'm looking at is a back to school giveaway. Okay. And it says Office of City Miami Commissioner Alex Diaz de la Portilla, District 1. So, this looks like Alex is giving away. Notice, look again, how big his name is over here. Okay. It looks like he's personally giving away these book bags and the school book bag giveaway, hot dogs, arepas, snow cones, cotton candy, music, popcorn, free while supplies last. Okay. Well, this is typically only done in a communist country. Okay. And I know a lot of people, they don't like that word. They say, oh, Christi, please don't use that word. Well, that is the truth, and the truth shall prevail in this situation. So the action item here is to simply look out for any commissioner that is plastering their name all over everything. And it's not their campaign. Hey, will you get me some of the campaign flyers? Do we have any of the postcards? If so, okay. If we do, we do. If not, I'll post them on my social media so that you guys can see. You can see basically at the bottom of every postcard that you're getting, you will see where it'll say political advertisement or endorsement paid for by, and that's where you're going to see the PAC information. However, if a candidate like Damien has funded himself, $60,000 thus far, and then gotten another $60,000 from his special interest donors, then you're already disenfranchised from day one. Or if you are Sabina, in her case, and let me show you where this information comes from, because this is important, because there is on Twitter, there's Miami SETA. There is a young lady named Danny R who goes through and she shares all of the campaign finance reports, because she is handicapped and she just wants to be able to go throughout the city of Miami, which she can often not do, whether it be because developers are not required to fix things like elevators in buildings or our transit system. So what she has done is she starts to research each of us. Listen, she researches everybody in terms of who is giving who to what. Okay. So you can always find the different contribution list. Here's where she matches it up. She shows you exactly who is funding what. And, a lot of times they will, go after things such as a political action committee will name something like Dream Miami or whatever. And then they all fund each other. So, and they will make a master group together. So technically you are electing a lot of times the same people in office with an agenda that they are already controlling. So that is the reason, a lot of people say, Christi, why do they all go against you? Well, this is why, because I don't play in their games. I don't take their PC money. I could have, I'm sure I could have. And easily probably had a very easy time, but that would have been disenfranchised voters from the very beginning. So you do have to ask. And so if I were interviewing any politicians that I was considering voting for, I would ask them about their political action committee money, ask them what their special interests or agendas are. For instance, my special interest and agenda would be considered to stop the corruption in Miami, which, they're saying that they want to stop corruption. However, that's now that it's cool, right? Because in the very beginning of my campaign back in for the February special election, I came out saying, ladies and gentlemen, we are surrounded by government gangsters. And I will not back down from that, because we are. So hold on just a second. Let me actually pull up the Coconut Grove Town Hall, where you can actually go and see this information for yourself, because, it is important that you learn what causes some of these issues. I believe that one's in my playlist. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so
about us having 3 kids.
No, it was always part of the plan.
We're going to wait till this comes through.
All right,
I'll tell you
everybody.
where to find it. Okay, so this is in the very beginning of this town hall. Okay. So I was hearing everybody around us, talk about, who they knew and, their connections and everything. And it
I do a lot of stuff.
disgusts me because I find that it disenfranchises every voter because you don't understand who's connected.
This city is, I love the city. I'm passionate about the city. I am not a rah-rah out there guy. I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And again, I want your support. I thank you for your support. My name is Javier Gonzalez. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christi Tasker. I've lived in the Rhodes area for almost 5 years, and we are being overrun by government gangsters. And I am here to stop it. I will stop the corruption. I know what the corruption is. I've been on NBC. I have investigated this myself. I live directly across the street from a construction project called UNA by Oko Group. Oko means I in Russian. And directly next door to that particular project lives Xavier Suarez, our mayor's father and a past commissioner. He does absolutely nothing about it while his own building has been hit, all while buildings next door have been fined while their amenities have been shut down because the construction project hit it. They breach absolutely everything, and they're doing this all over Miami, all while they're ignoring infrastructure in the building permits. They're giving COs without making sure that that infrastructure is fulfilled when they could be holding a permit until it's all done. It's very simple to fix, and it's going to take somebody with no political connections to the government gangsters, and I'm your girl.
So there you go. I called it from day one. So I say that because let me actually go through and read some of the comments. So we have a lot of comments. Oh, Gladys, thank you very much for tuning in. Pamela, thank you for tuning in. Let's see. This was done. Hold on. Let's go through and read the comments really quick. This was done, and I think it's because he's running for his district and no more. I'm not sure what that means, Gladys, but okay. Yeah, he's running for his district, but no more. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure. Well, they all want to basically put their names on everything, which should not be allowed because it's our taxpayer dollars. It's not their property. They can say it's their office. Well, yeah, it is their office, but the reality is it's our taxpayer money that's putting up those signs and erecting them, and it's our property. So they don't own it, so they shouldn't act like they do. Yeah, no politician's name is ever on City of Suwanee vehicles. That is correct. That is my mom, Pamela. Thank you very much. That is correct. That you never ever saw, like, until I moved to Miami, honestly, I don't even in the Dominican Republic, I don't see politicians' names on their government vehicles. I mean, this is literally kind of an only here situation. I agree. No name should appear on city property. Thank you, Gladys. And then, okay, so Danny Riviera, thank you so much for tuning in, Danny. She created a spreadsheet listing and linking the PCs listed on their MD and ED 28 forms currently for Miami and Miami-Dade electeds here. And I will tell you this, Danny is actually great if you just want to ask her questions. She does this for donations or for just the public in general. I would recommend that we help her out and give her donations, especially considering she cannot leave her house right now, because it's my understanding, Danny, that your elevator's out in your home now. Did I read that yesterday on your Twitter? I think so. Okay, Gladys, Pardo's showing that he's a banker. Yes, and he's already colluding with developers. I will tell you that. Hopefully Coconut Grove residents realize that. Same with James Torres. He's already taking money from developers, as is Sabina Covo. They are also working for Alex Diaz de la Portilla and Joe Carollo. James Torres actually had someone from Joe Carollo's office as his campaign manager before, and Alex Diaz de la Portilla and Joe Carollo are friends behind the scenes. Okay. Matter of fact, if you want to prove this to yourself, he was actually going into Joe's office right before they came to arrest him. Okay. So they are colluding together. They are ruling your city. Okay. And yes, people say, well, Christi, how can you stay alive? Well, you know what? I have the armor of God. I'm not afraid of these people. Okay. So, yes, ADLP has been suspended by the governor, suspended. And that is a big word, suspended. So Alex Diaz de la Portilla is actually a former Democrat running the Republican Party of Miami-Dade. I don't know how the Republicans in Miami ever let this guy in, to be honest with you, because he's such a dino in a rhino suit. Matter of fact, so much so, he knows that I am such a threat to him as a political figure, because I have called him out, that I've actually been blocked from entering the Republican Executive Committee. All while we have other candidates, and I'm just going to call them out by name, like Damien saying, "Oh, I'm a conservative," but you're a registered Democrat. Okay. So you are that. That is the truth. And then we have James Torres going around saying that he's the only Republican in the race. And guess what? He's not a registered Republican at all. So James, if you're listening to this, guess what? Every time I see your sign, I'm going to knock on that door to let them know that most of the time I've already got recordings of the people saying that you lied to them, which is a campaign violation to begin with. That will be turned in to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. So here we have, but it's no surprise, because James is a criminal from Arizona who conveniently cannot get his records straight. He cannot get his dates straight. He can't remember why he was arrested, and then continues to blame it on the divorce. Well, guess what? I went through a divorce too, and I don't have a criminal record. Okay. So when it comes to these people, we just have to be very cautious, because what they are doing is they are selling off our own land. They are colluding with even things like churches and pastors to get any Bayside land, to initiate what's called a C40 smart plan. Okay. So basically, what I have in Brickell are policemen and law enforcement of all kinds, believe it or not, telling me that many of our buildings in Brickell are like ghost towns. They're being utilized right now for Airbnbs, meaning that they are disenfranchising all citizens of Miami, because there could be a simple legislation passed that your taxes would be more if you do not have a 12-month lease on your property if you are a landlord. So otherwise, we're going to continue to have these mass landlords who simply do not rent out the properties to actual citizens. So therefore, who is going to work in our city in the future? So these are big, big questions that must be asked. And if you guys have any other questions regarding this, please feel free to comment them. And I will do my best to make sure that we answer them as we go through. So I'm going to play a little clip and also show you guys where you can find some of the news that I am also posting, because that is critical. You can also see my views. Okay. Oh, this is another thing. The breeding ground for corruption for a politician is for them not to have anything on social media, believe it or not. Okay. So none of these people really post a lot on social media, or they have their private pages blocked so that you cannot see them. Okay. So in other words, it may look like there's content missing. It's because they do not want you to see what they have been up to. Okay. I don't have to go through my pages to cover up anything, because I haven't done anything wrong to begin with. But, evidently there are, a lot of these people, the only thing they have up is their political stuff. So what I would highly recommend that you do, here's the clip here that I was going to show you regarding Alex Diaz de la Portilla going into Joe's office. Channel 10 actually caught him going in.
We do have breaking news. City of Miami Commissioner Alex Diaz de la Portilla has turned himself in on money laundering and official misconduct charges.
Local 10's Christina Vasquez joins us live outside City Hall with all the breaking details. Christina.
And we spoke with that commissioner within hours of that moment you just referenced happening, and you're going to see that. But first, let's break down what we're hearing from FDLE and from the Broward State Attorney's Office. So FDLE confirming with me that Miami Commissioner Alex Diaz de la Portilla, he's up for re-election here in Miami in November, that he did turn himself into their Miami office, which is located in Doral. I also reached out to the Broward State Attorney's Office, and they are explaining that Diaz de la Portilla and an attorney, William Riley Jr., are facing, they say, money laundering and official misconduct charges as part of a joint investigation with their office, the Broward State Attorney's Office, FDLE, and the Miami-Dade Commission on Ethics and Public Trust. Now, according to FDLE, the pair accepted $15,000 in payments for Diaz de la Portilla's brother's Miami-Dade County Court judicial campaign, but did not report them. You might remember the Miami commissioner's brother, Rainier, ran for a judge in 2022 and lost. And that this attorney, Riley Jr., used a bank account that was related to a Delaware-based corporation to launder just shy of $250,000 in, quote, concealed political contributions made by a management services company in exchange for permission to build a sports complex in the city of Miami. Now, I mentioned how I spoke with the commissioner. So at 12:27 p.m., he emerged from his office here at City Hall, where a sergeant of arms for the Miami Police Department had kicked us out of. And I worked to invite him, to give him an opportunity to address the allegations, to ensure that you, members of the public, had an opportunity to hear from this elected commissioner. Let's listen in a little bit about what he chose to do instead. And from what I understand, right now, you do not hear sound on this clip that you are viewing, and you will see more of this coming up at Local 10 News at 4. But essentially what he decides to do, you will hear me extending this invitation for him to speak, and you will hear him making the choice to deflect, be a little dismissive, and ultimately decide not to provide any comment. He did say at one point that he will speak directly to the people at some point. We're not quite sure when that will be. Now, coming back out to me live, I can say that the reason why this is coming out of the Broward State Attorney's Office is we have learned from that office that this originated in Miami-Dade, and that the governor of Florida, at the request of Miami's State Attorney's Office, assigned it to Broward. And sometimes this happens, as you may be aware, because Miami State Attorney's Office, they want to avoid any possible even conflict of interest. So they make this request for an executive assignment that went to the governor, and the governor assigned it to Broward. Meantime, we are also now hearing from Broward's state attorney. We have so much more coming up for you on Local 10 News at 4. For now, reporting live for you, I'm Christina Vasquez, Local 10 News.
Okay, so, there we have that. Okay, and then we also have that the governor did suspend him for sure. So we'll play that clip so that you guys can hear everything that the governor said as a whole. And then I'll share with you, why all of this matters. Actually, I don't have the other clip up, so we'll go into this as well. Okay, so this weekend, we may think, well, these local elections don't really matter. Okay. But they do. Okay. So the incumbent actually got into office on about 1,800 votes. Okay. That's not a lot. There were less than 12%, actually less than 13% turnout in the last election. So I need 3,300, probably 3,348 votes is what we're going for me to get into office. That's not a lot. Considering the last time I ran, I basically had like more than 2% or right around 2% of the vote, and I had no money. I put in nothing on my own. Very few people knew me at that point because it is one of those things where we are, dealing with, all these dollars of corruption, and there's no way that, I'm going to be able to compete with them money-wise, because I'm not even trying to. So what I'm trying to do is get you all as voters to, number one, share things with your neighbors, make sure that you are informed as a whole, because this affects all of us in so many different ways. So when I say this affects all of us, okay, so this Saturday, several of my volunteers and I went out to Brickell at First Miami Presbyterian, and we picked up garbage out of the bay. Okay, so let me just show you. I don't think I have the construction debris photos yet. I will post those separately. But basically, what we did is we picked up mass pieces of construction materials from the bay. Okay, it's not just these little pieces of plastic and things like that you're even seeing here. I'm going to have to post them separately. But I'm talking about massive chunks of things directly from our bay, and it's absolutely gross and disgusting. So number one, I want to encourage you all to get involved with the trash pickup and cleanup, okay, because that is important, because our city is not doing it right now. The incumbent has not even does not even have a schedule for a sweeping truck, does not have a schedule for flood mitigation. And it's absolutely disgusting at what they think, they are spending time on. And they're spending time, our politicians in the past have spent a lot of time on things like this, such as these giveaways so that they can do press conferences to incite fear of people. Okay. So this is where I'm showing you that, Mayor Francis Suarez and Commissioner Diaz de la Portilla, and Ken Russell, that is former District 2, were all involved in the COVID-19 plan, where, it's called problem reaction solution. Okay. So a lot of times your government will create problems to then come in to get a reaction out of you, to get a solution. So it's not like they just decided to go give away like groceries here. Okay. This was an entire press event, that they weren't doing this out of the goodness of their heart, because otherwise there would not be press there. Press would not have known that they were even coming. But instead they created an entire campaign, Stand Up Miami. Then they did Mask Up Miami. And by the way, nobody can give us public records on Mask Up Miami or Stand Up Miami. Who created the campaigns? How much did we pay for it? So whenever I can't get things like this, I immediately start to think, oh, was this used as a money laundering scheme? That is a question, not an accusation. I would just like to see the public records regarding it, which I've not been able to obtain thus far. So, and here we have miamigov.com being utilized for this. Okay. So let me just show you a couple of things here that I noticed as I was even going through these photos. My friend Seth at World Red Eye actually took these photos. So, I know that they called in, photographers and everything. So notice here we have, Alex Diaz de la Portilla, he kind of forgets to put on his other glove here. Okay. Because they utilize things like this to get people under their control. This is what authoritarians do. And we just need to be very cautious of it, because, it has been utilized in the past. During COVID, I actually had people from Cuba that had just come over from Cuba in the last year and a half tell me that they were, this is how things, that they had been a part of these things in Cuba. So, one lady was crying and being reminded of this. Listen, I'm not saying, you can do whatever you want for your health, and I will make sure that you have whatever resources you need as a legislator and as a person, but I will never, ever in 100 million years tell you what to do with your body or your health. I do not feel that it is our government's role to incite fear or to tell you, what to do, especially to go out and use it as a photo op to take photos, like we're giving away groceries, because I think this further creates fear for people as a whole, just making them feel like that they can't get these groceries without, a politician. And as if, all of these politicians really care about this man. Okay. So, the whole photo op thing just kind of grosses me out, if you want to know the truth. And I say that because our current incumbent actually has an event planner working as her general manager in the city office, and she also has a PR person. So why do you need a PR person to run around and take photos of you when your job is actually just to do city services? Okay, so we don't actually have to need photo ops every single day. We don't need to pull our police off the street for photo ops. And there are multiples being pulled off at a time. So, those are several of the things I noticed. And I mean, here's where even the cameraman, doesn't even have his mask on correctly, so, and then taking the police in. There is a situation where I want to make sure that you guys are aware, because in other countries, especially like third world countries, whenever there are takeovers, there's a thing called a police state. And we are dealing with that some throughout America. So let me actually finish scrolling through these photos. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, so we all need to watch out for stuff like creating a police state. So you consider watching the trailer from policestatefilm.net. Okay. So, I am not trying to incite fear in you at all. I am basically just saying, make sure that you are informed on who you are voting for, because these situations can become serious. The more control these people have, the worse sometimes things can get. Okay, so let me read some of the comments. Right now, the commission has voted to move the administrative building to Melrose Golf Course. While the city has already given Miami Freedom Park a 99-year lease, the building cost is $250 million. Not right. There's something wrong here. So we all pay dollars for a building, and then we pay to rent it to Freedom Park. Really, the commission can do better. That is correct, Gladys. And these are basic things. Like last week, there was a ribbon cutting in David Kennedy Park for a bathroom that supposedly cost almost $1.2 million. Okay. So that made just made red flags go up everywhere, because that bathroom should never cost $1.2 million. I just need the public to think logically. There are complete homes that are available with property for $1.2 million. Okay. So yes, if we had to buy the property, it might be $1.2 million, but just building a bathroom, no way, shape, or form. So those are things that I question, even from the city manager, if the city manager approved that. However, our city manager is not an experienced city manager. So that is one of the first things that I will be questioning, is the city manager's role and his job and his experience, because he actually came from the Miami Parking Authority. Okay, so it's important that we understand that. You call the city, but we all need all of these commissioners and an attorney, city manager, and a city manager. Yeah, that we don't want this as a bad decision. That is true. So if you guys can make sure that you do call to support the Melrose Golf Course piece of legislation, that would be great. And by the way, any of these legislations could also be overturned. So just make sure that we are there. Yes, my mom, Pamela, says creates fear and leads to big government dependence. That is correct. So we don't want people to be dependent on the government. We need the government to do the right thing for the people. And again, I said earlier, one of the biggest solutions would be a piece of legislation that basically says that your apartment needs a 12-month lease. Otherwise, it's going to be taxed differently. So that is one way we could get around the whole Airbnb thing. That piece of legislation has actually worked in many cases. Okay. Hello, Dolores. Thank you so much for coming in, Lola. Lola's awesome. So the city commission meeting is set for Saturday at 6 p.m. How interesting is that all together? Lola, thank you for bringing that to everyone's attention. I haven't even gotten there yet, so you're not too late to be the first to bring that up, because, Saturday at 6 o'clock. Okay. So let's think logically here. Okay. I'm just going to throw out just some some facts and theories and just some ideas. And that's what I'm going to be doing on these Town Hall Tuesdays at 12 every single week. Like even when I'm in office, I'm going to come to you and talk to you just like we're talking right now, because I want to know what the concerns are of the people. I don't want you to have to go to a park. I don't want you to have to sweat. I want you to be able to watch it, replay it, do whatever you want to afterwards. Hold me accountable to my own words. That is perfectly fine. So when it comes to these secret meetings and the meetings at awkward times at night, and holding people for long hours. Like for instance, the other day, I told you that I was going to the code enforcement meeting because one of the code enforcement board members said, Christi, you really need to come to the meeting because you got to see what's happening. You got to see, I'm having to stand my ground. They are so wishy-washy that I literally have to like start screaming at them. And she does. Okay. So I want to say, you know, and that's been a court. So she is having to really be the only one to say, you know what you're doing is not fair. She's having to call the attorneys out. So, you know, it's like we're operating in this shady government. And by the way, that board, the code enforcement board, let me just tell you who's on that board is Martin Zilber, who I ran against the last race, who was put and voted in by Alex Diaz de la Portilla. He was voted in by Joe Carollo, and they're the ones who wanted to install him as District 2 Commission. Okay. He raised more than $500,000. I think it was closer to 600,000. Danny, feel free to correct me on any of my numbers here if you know the exact numbers. But you know, I mean, they're raising $500,000 in like for a 6-week election. I mean, this is how crazy it is. Okay. And when it comes to this, we also have, let's see, Danny has, I think she said, City of Miami Beach campaign finance laws that prohibit developers, city vendors, and their lobbyists from donating to the commission and mayoral candidates. Yes, correct. We really need something like that in the city of Miami. It's not perfect, but it does absolutely help. It absolutely helps because we have people on the board. So let me explain to you all. The commission actually appoints people to boards, okay? For instance, right now, I have done a records request wanting to know the resumes and the applications for Sabina Covo's appointments. I can't get them. I mean, Ryan Steed, you can go online, you can see see these requests, you can see it moving around. And I'm saying, and he's saying, oh, but they're not employees of the city. No, but they were appointed by our commissioners. So I need to know what she utilized to make her decision to appoint those people, because I don't think it was her appointing the people at all. I think she is an absolute puppet working on behalf of Joe Carollo and Alex Diaz de la Portilla. And so they get together, they know how each other is going to vote. They never question each other, even to the point where I've made public statements asking Sabina, hey, all you have to do is ask him publicly, you know, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to like gerrymander your opponent out? Alex, you just need to put him back in. Nobody said anything regarding that. I even went up to Joe and Manolo Reyes after I made it before the break. And I said, guys, please, like you're making like bigger fools out of yourselves than you already are. You're showing where your alliances are. And they just laugh saying, oh, well, you know, sometimes it's better to have 2 commissioners, Christi. No, it's not. And if that's actually the case, we have the least amount of commissioners per the number of voters in all of Florida. We should actually have 11 commissioners per the number of citizens that we have. We have 5. And within those 5, most of the time, you will notice that Alex Diaz de la Portilla and Joe Carollo, number one, either they're not there, they run to the bathroom, because most likely they know 100% that they have conflicts of interest that have not been disclosed. But instead of pushing those conflicts of interest out, they are instead making sure that the 3 voting commissioners are voting in their direction. And they definitely don't want it to be a situation where one commissioner votes differently, because then they know it raises red flags for the others. They want it to be, all encompassing. So Danny, we need these laws. We need these laws here. That is correct. That we do need the laws there. I agree, Gladys. We need those laws because that would actually solve a lot of the issues that we have. And the other thing that I want to know if you guys agree, but I think there should actually be a cap on the amount of money for a local election that people could raise in general via PACs and by campaigns. Like, for instance, my campaign can only raise $1,000 per voter. And by the way, if you are listening to this and you can donate, please make sure that you do go on and donate. Your donations to me are extremely helpful because that is actually what we're utilizing, Barbara and I, to get messages out, to pay for ads, to make sure that we have signage up. You guys can see, we strategically place things. We're doing a lot of this work ourselves. We have no paid volunteers. We have real volunteers that are volunteering their time. And I'm very, very grateful to my volunteers who are phone banking, who are calling, emailing, texting. And if you're wondering, if you're one of those people out there and you're thinking, well, I want to help, please feel free. You can jump in and help me. Absolutely, 100%. We will give you a list of people that you can call and phone bank to because that is how we are running a campaign. It's a legitimate campaign where we're not paying people to wear T-shirts around. We're not paying people to hold signs. And we are certainly not disenfranchising voters in any way, shape, or form. Okay, guys, it is getting close to, okay, so Danny, each individual company counts as an individual. That is correct. When it comes to a max direct to candidate donation, this allows someone to use 5, 10, or even 20 companies to give a max of basically $1,000 each. Speaking of that, like if you even look at Alex Diaz de la Portilla or any of these other candidates, you will see that they have a ton of just $1,000. Matter of fact, I looked at Alex's campaign sheet. He had, like, the last reporting that I saw, that I just happened to glance at, he had 72 voters and $72,000. I mean, 72 contributors and $72,000. That means each of his contributors gave $1,000 each. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I've got, donors that have given $5 or $10 or $20 or $250 or $1,000. Some people do give that, but it's very rare, that you would just have all 72 donors giving $1,000. I mean, so it's like, that's an easy way for him to basically call to collect. I mean, it's kind of like, paying the piper here. Yeah, what a coincidence. Yeah, there's no such thing as coincidences, as we well know. And I would say when people are, Pamela's saying lots of shell companies being utilized to fund these corrupt campaigns. That is correct. Speaking of which, we haven't really covered anything. Let's see, condo corruption. I'm going to share with you all while we're talking about corruption. We'll go ahead and get this out here too, because, running for commissioner means that everybody is going to contact you. Okay. So this is not my research here. This is the research of, so we have Eddie Leal in my race. Okay. These are his connections to various boards and various entities. So here we have, multiple shell companies being run here. And these are just the ones that this person have found. Okay. There's multiples of these sheets running around, and they all have different shell companies based on what different people are finding. And Eddie Leal as a whole does work for the mayor's office as the attorney. He never stepped down. Voters are telling me that actually voted for him before. They totally regret it, that he never even followed up with them afterwards. And matter of fact, he only follows up with them after they've made a report either to the mayor's office or to City Hall. If anybody wants this, I'm going to drop the link in the chat so that you guys can see, and maybe you have other connections that's there. So that way you can actually see, you know, what's happening, because that's a big deal as a whole. So do make sure that you are, you know, on. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat now, and I'll make sure to answer them. Otherwise, I will look forward to seeing you guys back next week. Next week at 12 for Town Hall Tuesdays at 12. Oh, and Saturday. Speaking of Saturday, for the commission meeting, I am going to host, starting at 5 o'clock, I'm going to host a press briefing outside of City Hall. So if you would like to protest, I personally do not think that we need anyone in the office, in Alex Diaz de la Portilla's office, until it can be fully investigated. I do not think we need anyone, because I think there's a huge potential that if somebody were to be in that office, even for a 4-week period, they could get in there and they could clean things up. Okay. I don't think that we should be tampering with any evidence in that office until the full investigation has taken place. So that is my request from Florida Department of Law Enforcement, that they actually not allow anybody in that office, or that they at least go in and preserve all the hard drives, the computer evidence, or anything else that might be there, because I think it's very, very awkward. Okay, great, Lola. You're saying too that we should wait till the November election. That's exactly what I think as well. The November election, the new District 1 commissioner should be the next one to occupy that office, so that they can go in, they can see exactly what's there. They can allow, law enforcement, if they may need to call in law enforcement to, scan the hard drives and things. So I want to make sure that we don't have an issue where we are allowing our city commission to go in and go in and clean anything up, because we already have enough of that going on. And I cannot imagine. I mean, listen, every commissioner, I'm going to post where you can see Sabina's trucks looks exactly like Alex's trucks. Okay. They're utilizing the same people, the same methods. They're all tied together. Sabina is friends with Francis Suarez. She's friends with Eddie Leal. She's friends with Martin Zilber. All via Colombian connections. And I know, because they've come to me, they offered to endorse me for governor, for Congress, for legislator. And I'm like, are you nuts? So, you thought the FBI was a part of the initial investigation. Well, there may be initial investigation with the FBI. However, I think there may be others investigating as well. I think there could be a total of 3 different agencies investigating this. And, we'll see what they each come up with. That should be very interesting, right? Doesn't the law enforcement team sweep ADLP's office? They should. Gladys, they should. They should have by now. I think there's some agencies that may have and others that have not. They have to have, reason for the search warrants. I have not received, 100% facts that they've gone in and taken hard drives or anything like that. I have requested that they do, because I think that they should, to make sure that everything is backed up. Because, Lola, we even know from even our own building that, those kind of things are very important to make sure that data is backed up in terms of your build, even for a building. So imagine what that is for a district, for a commissioner. So yeah, there's a lot we have to do for sure. We definitely need checks and balances, in this case with multiple agencies. That is correct. Yes. I'm hoping that the Federal Bureau of Investigation has come in along with Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and possibly in this situation, because Alex is the supposedly Republican at the state level for the Republican Executive Committee, excuse me. That is the GOP at the state level. I'm hoping that the federal, that the U.S. Marshals have also come in to take a look at this, because that would also be a big one, because anytime you've got something to this magnitude where people have connections, even at the state level, and they're touting, like in Alex's case, he's also touting that oh, he's being treated like Trump. Okay, this guy is a total dino. Okay, dino in a rhino suit. So don't forget that. I mean, he literally switched parties back in the day because he figured that he could win that district easier. I think he's also under part of the investigation is, does he even live in the district? So I think there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to be finding out, possibly about a lot of our commission and a lot of our city as a whole. So I would just ask everybody to be vigilant. Speaking of that, let me actually give you the investigator's name and phone number for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the U.S. Marshals. I'm going to say for U.S. Marshals, if you think something is at the state level, listen, if you guys want to CC me on any of your correspondences, trust me, I will make sure that I follow through with them. Oh, Gladys, you have more info on freedom. There's more to this freedom part. Yes, I agree. There's more to a lot of different things. So here's the deal. If you guys want to send me anything that you're even thinking, I am waiting to hear back from Galen White, which is the special agent from Florida Department of Law Enforcement. His number is 305-470-5500. And again, that is Galen White. He is the Florida Department of Law Enforcement special agent working on this case. His number is 305-470-5500. If you have any information that you think might be helpful at all regarding any connections back to the politicians at the city or county level in Miami-Dade or throughout all of Florida, please call that number, because that's going to be extremely helpful. And then the U.S. Marshals and Department of Justice number, let me actually just pull that up for you, and I'll pull up the main number so that you have that. Hold on just a second. Yeah, actually, I'll put it in the chat for you. Correct. Okay. So the U.S. Marshals Service in Miami, the number is 786-433-6340. Okay, so I'm going to post that in the chat for you. That's U.S. Marshals. U.S. Marshals. I'll post it again. Okay, and if they tell you to call somewhere else, please, do be respectful, because I know that they are all working on this for us, and they have been for quite some time. So make sure that you do give them the information. Any connections, anything. We need to clean house once and for all. We don't need to stand back and say absolutely nothing. When good people sit silent, bad things can happen. Okay, so let's not let it happen. Let's take back our city together. Let's make sure that we are vigilant, just staying vigilant. And the number on the screen now is for the FDLE. So that is Special Agent Galen White. And you're welcome to CC me on, if you just want to send me emails, whatever you want to do. If you want me to turn over any information, I'm happy to do that. Yes, thank you so much, Gladys. We are going to clean this place up once and for all. I'm not trying to be a beggar, but if you guys can please go on and chip in at Christi4Miami.com, please do so. I very, very much appreciate your donations, and very much put those to use right away with t-shirts, signage, printed materials, and online ads. So if there's anything else that you think that we need to be doing, we'll gladly do it. We'll entertain, Barbara and I will entertain just about anything in terms of any campaign ideas, or, where we could go speak. I am speaking to a lot of HOAs and a lot of the HOA presidents. They are sick and tired of, having to take care of parks next to their buildings, or being told that they need to pay for parks or pay for extra security. When the reality is, we generate in District 2 almost 90% of the city's budget. And there's no telling how much we're actually generating with things such as the Bayfront Park Trust that's totally to be untrusted because that is in the hands of Joe Carollo. And he pretty much utilizes it like it's his own backyard. So I would say, please, make sure that you, number one, make sure you tell a neighbor. Okay. So make sure you tell a neighbor about this election because believe it or not, the Republican Executive Committee under the leadership of Alex Diaz de la Portilla has failed to even include this election as a whole on the Republican Party calendar. So Republicans out there have no idea that this election's even happening, okay? While we've got Democrats endorsing Sabina Covo, okay? And a lot of Democrats don't realize that they are pretty much voting in, this same group of people, okay? So we have to get that information and that word out there because that is critical and just making sure people know who they're voting for. Okay. And if you guys need any yard signs, you want to join me at events or join me to go door knock. I pretty much try, if I'm not at an event, I'm actually outdoor knocking, talking to voters, and I'm actually having a ton of fun doing it. So I've met a lot of great people, a lot of great business owners, and a lot of people that are going to be great people in the community that have also been disenfranchised in so many different ways. So I look forward to being able to bring those people on, and just tell their stories and tell how they did things. I've met a young lady who pretty much did all of her own building permits because she was told she couldn't even open her business. Okay. And then when she did open, they tried to, not give her a CO. They tried to make it out like she had done something wrong. And then afterwards, they actually went around and shut down several businesses in Coconut Grove. You guys know what I'm talking about. And it's completely wrong. That will not happen under my watch. And we will work together and get this city cleaned up. Thank you guys for tuning in. God bless you. Thank you. And God bless America as a whole. Pray for this election. Pray that everything goes as smoothly as possible. Pray for these investigators that they just find the right things so that we can get rid of this corruption once and for all. Thank you very much.